Welcome to the divisional round preview. We're doing off and on the clock a day early. I'm traveling later this afternoon, but I wasn't going to let this week slip by without chopping it up with the Badge Bros. We're going to do a divisional round preview from a Battle Royale perspective. We got a $20,000 top prize this week and some smaller contests we'll dive into. And of course, our specialty, building some spicy pick'ems, all kinds of fun we can dial up for this weekend. I got Nez, I got John, fresh off of solidifying their new deal with Underdog Fantasy. You guys are staying in the family. You love to hear it. How are we doing, guys?
Doing good. I was pleased to see that announcement that's been in the works for a little bit with John and I and Redmond going back and forth, but never a doubt. Yeah, we're very excited, very thrilled, and it's time to just get right back into these streets. Business is done. Let's get back in here. John, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. Obviously, I don't know, the tweet that I threw out before this, like, we joked for so many years about platform of the people, and then when you actually meet the people, couldn't be more happy to be joining them. But I don't know, man. I think Ohtani's shaking his head right now that he signed that deal so early. I mean, he didn't test the waters enough, man. That Ohtani deal is looking putrid in comparison now, Nez.
I will say that's a pretty favorable comp to give yourselves. But yeah, as multi-sport athletes, Ohtani, playing on both sides there, I feel like you guys, I think you can have some claim to the BR Ohtani.
No, the only claim between us and Ohtani is that we love our dogs.
We can definitively say that we have more of our contract up front than prorated than Ohtani. So can definitively say that.
We are simulcasting this on both my channel and the Badge Bros channel. And you guys want to know who the Ohtani of the chat is? It's Copper going back and forth between the two chats here. See it?
Wow.
Look at this guy, switch hitter from the Badge Bros chat to the Overzet chat. So yeah, we wanted to get this out everywhere. But guys, I'm excited about this slate. And I'm also like a little sad and nostalgic because for me, this is like the last excellent BR slate. I know you guys are short slate kings. You do all that. But like for me, I need these 8 teams. We got the 4 games. We still got scroll down. We can still galaxy brain some stuff. Like this is the last one for a while of having, at least 4 games on a slate.
Yeah, it's bittersweet. It is bittersweet. But if there was one to go out on, Pete, this feels like a good one. I mean, there is a ton of talent and you can't honestly on a lot of 4-game slates, you can't really find comfortable scroll down options. Like we'll gal brain our way there, but this one feels really good to get unique, especially at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I was going to say, Nez, I'm curious your thought. I've done about 30 BRs, I think, so far. What I found is I love this slate at the onesies. I think there's so much fun stuff to do with quarterback and tight end, and I'm finding running back and wide receiver to be extremely shallow.
Agreed. My like meta right now, the way that I'm going to be attacking this is typical to what we've been doing, like post dog bowl, I would call it, when I've really been putting like my eggs into these main BR baskets, and that's wide receiver early, and then take like the projectable pieces after that. It's very like we kind of talked about it on a previous show that the gauntlet returns and the mitten returns are like exact opposite, where it's like running back first and then like take the receiving pieces you can get after that because tight end is lumped in there. Not here. I definitely want my running backs first, and you could really pick and choose. Like I don't, other than McCaffrey, of course, not a lot of like, in my opinion, like obvious smash plays at the running back position, just a lot of good ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like the interesting thing you say about that, Nez, is like we talked about that yesterday, obviously, but the one that stands out to me is when you're looking for like one-off scoring in an isolated week, usually it's like go find it at the running back position, right? As like the scroll the F down variety, find the guy who falls into the end zone like one time or whatever. And that doesn't play as well over multiple weeks in the other contest, right? Because you have to get these lineups through, and I don't know if they're going to fall in, but as a uniqueness lever to pull here, like just going all in on Justice Hill over Gus Edwards, or something like going all in on David Montgomery over Jahmyr Gibbs in here, and just taking those wide receivers first and then kind of leveraging your portfolio as like the fall in the end zone. There's no separator outside of like CMC on this slate. I'll get my 8 points and that'll be enough. I think that's a really, really unique one to pull this week.
It does seem like at wide receiver, it's really polarized, right? Like the high end options are pretty good. And then like the mid range, you have like Jaden Reed and Chris Godwin, like guys you feel kind of good about, but aren't necessarily just uber smashes. And then you're in just total sling and darts territory. It's like, do you want to go back to the David Moore? Do you want to dabble with some Dontavian Wicks? Like, and not saying like those guys aren't intriguing. I think they are in their own right intriguing, but just like the projection gap is pretty polarized at wide receiver.
I think what can exemplify that no better than the fact that I'm looking at Devin Duvernay's practice report right now. That
John, find God, man. Come on, dude.
Because in a way, that is kind of like the two ways to get unique this week, right? It's either through the onesies and the guys that aren't getting drafted in every draft, or you're betting on some of these big uber favorites and trying to find the pieces that aren't going to get drafted, like the Aguilars, like, I'm trying to think, even like a Jameson Williams or a Josh Reynolds, like these guys that are projecting well that aren't going to get selected. Or you could play a guy like a Dontavian Wicks who's going to be on the field for probably 100% of the snaps for a team that's going to be in a trailing game script. So those are the kind of like builds that I'm wrestling with. I've been mixing and matching just about everything so far, but like a dominant strategy or angle hasn't necessarily emerged for me yet.
Oh, hey,
yes. We got the Hulka system going where I'm like over here and then I'm front facing. I love this camera that I have, but like it keeps disconnecting. Like it's like $30, which explains why it disconnects. But like I've tried other cameras and this is like the best one, except it disconnects. Great points. I will say, I am surprised that people saw Jordan Love just play street ball, throwing fadeaway touchdowns to the back of the end zone, and people are still like not wanting like any part of that. Like I'm taking Jordan Love over Mahomes, or can I say the right name? Patrick Mahomes in a vacuum, like every time this week. I mean, I'm just am I crazy? Am I crazy for that? Like I think I've seen enough from these Chiefs that if they beat the Bills, it's going to be on the backs of their defense and on the backs of like playing clock control ball. They can't win in a shootout, right?
I think your thesis is correct, like just in general. I can't like argue that. It does feel similar to last week where you called your shot with the Green Bay stuff. Obviously, this is a tougher defensive matchup against the Niners there, but like the way in which you called your shot was there was two paths you could get it. They're dogs and they're just throwing like crazy, and they do what we saw the Cowboys do this week, where it's just garbage time, rack up points because they're so far behind, or the inverse, what they actually did last week and shocked the world by getting out ahead because their pass game was so efficient. So I do think there's two paths to that, Nez, which I think is a pretty sharp thing to ape into. Whereas like the Chiefs game does feel like it'll play similarly to the way in which Chiefs Dolphins played last week, where it was like defense, Pacheco, hopefully we can hit Kelsey and he doesn't drop it a few times.
Yeah. And I think, this goes back to just basic BR principles, right? Where in most of these drafts, the top 6 quarterbacks who are going, Lamar, Josh Allen, Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Jared Goff. Baker Mayfield and Jordan Love are not getting drafted in 100% of these. You see they both have an ADP after 34. And yet you can go look at whatever your projection system is of choice. At Fantasy Life, we have an aggressive Baker projection. We have him ahead of Jared Goff over at Fantasy Life, which I might IKB that like in a vacuum if I had to decide. But the point is, one of these guys is getting drafted in 100% and the other isn't. And the fact that you can get down to 2 scroll down options in Baker Mayfield and Jordan Love, who are playing really good. They're both coming off of 3 touchdown games, and they're not being drafted in all these contests and don't project differently than Mahomes, Stroud, and Goff. To me, it makes them just uber slam dunk picks.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you, Pete, there. I have a confession to make. I also signed a second deal this week, and it is head of projections at Fantasy Life there. I signed on for that deal, and Baker doubles are popping in the models yet again. Baker double.
That's amazing. Yeah, good.
No, go ahead, Nez.
I just totally am in like lockstep with this. This Tampa Bay Detroit game is shaping up to be just like excellent and so much fun and just full of goodness for us. And it feels very similar to the Rams and Lions thesis last week, which that game didn't go over its total, but it was still like a pretty back and forth style game that provided us with some fantasy points. So this game just feels so much fun, and Baker and Jordan Love are going to be at the top of my QB exposures this week for the reasons you said, Pete, because they are just based on the ADP not getting drafted 100% of the time and the projections, and even projections be damned. Like both of these guys are probably going to be chucking it and are playing good football. I mean, for me, it's just like you said, it's just the basic principles.
Can I float a couple ideas you guys' way here? Because I think we're all in lockstep that scroll down quarterback feels like the comfiest, best way to get unique this week, right?
Yep.
Okay. Are we doing double tight end builds? Do double tight end builds feel like the nice meta here because the scroll down options aren't as plentiful at the flex position this week? And or are we playing super game script ones where we're onslaughting one game environment and or onslaughting like one team that is a 10-point favorite, whether it be Ravens or Niners, and you pair in like a backup running back or a fourth wide receiver for like a garbage time kind of narrative? Are these two gal brain that I'm getting at?
I'll tackle the first one. I'll see Nez's thoughts on the second. I think double tight end's completely fine, even specifically with the examples with Baker Mayfield and Jordan Love, right? So not only do you have Musgrave, Kraft, and Kate Otten not getting drafted, but when you think about how they're going to project to the other guys you're going to double stack them with, it's like if you were to handicap David Moore, Trey Palmer, Kate Otten, you'd probably say just flip a coin. If you were to handicap Wicks, Christian Watson, Musgrave, Kraft, you'd probably say flip a coin. So if you draft Kelsey, if you draft Kittle, if you draft Kincaid, and then you're like, I'm rounding out a double with Love or Mayfield, and you want to tack on that second tight end, like on this slate, they probably straight up project pretty similarly. So I think in those contexts, it's completely fine.
Yeah, I feel very similarly in that regard. And like the one, like the Kate Otten one that you brought up there, it's like, do I want to bet on David Moore, who had like 5 catches coming into last week, and then all of a sudden he just pops off one big one, goes 262 or 266 and 1 or whatever? Or do I want to bet on the volume that Kate Otten saw last week in like the 11 targets, 8 catches, blah, 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 right?
Nez, what do you think about the latter question about, is this, we're still playing in a pretty big contest. I'm pulling up the exact amount here, Battle Royale. We're going to have 45,000 entrants, like we still got to kind of hit the nuts here. Are you onslaughting? Are you double stacking, bring back? What's the meta here?
I can't really do any backup running back stuff personally. I get the thesis, and I think that can totally take place. I guess it's just a matter of who you think that team is that's going to blow somebody out, and who is that running back going to be that is getting those carries that we're talking about. And here's a hot take for you. If this is going to happen, I think it won't be in the NFC side, and I would play that for the Bills. And because I seriously, like, I've been on the Kansas City is not for real train for a minute. Bills are trending up. I mean, Kansas City just beat the Dolphins in deciding fashion, but the Dolphins have been completely banged up, and that game was a layup game, and they were supposed to win that game, and they did. Now, I think this is Mahomes' first road game in a playoff spot, and I'm not doubting Mahomes here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. And just the way that the Bills' trajectory has been, and what I think they can do, and the way that Ty Johnson has kind of emerged as like the RB2 in Buffalo, maybe play it that way, because that is certainly going to be extremely unique. But I won't be doing that at volume, I will say. But I think it's a smart way to think about it, because this is a ton of entrants and not a lot of football games.
Let's Let's stay on QB here a little bit. I kind of like the idea of going through the positions, but I want to pull up this chat from Chad here. He said he pulled the data from the divisional round last year. Hurts, Mahomes, Allen were 100% rostered, Burrow 99%, Purdy, Dak, T-Law, and Daniel Jones were between 40 and 56%, and their ADP was all 32 plus. And so if you look at the 32 plus quarterbacks here, it's Jared Goff, Baker, and Jordan Love. So I do think pretty safe to say Jared Goff probably in that 50 to 60% range, and then Love and Mayfield probably sub 45%, sub 40%.
Your boy's gonna be having some Baker here. I mean, like the thing is, like, if we look at these defenses too, and the matchups of like the scroll quarterbacks, or even from like Shrout down, you got Shrout outside against what DVOA calls the best defense in football. Then you got Jordan Love going against what DVOA calls the fourth best. Both of them are better against the pass, those two defenses. So you got those two guys going outdoor, blah, blah, blah. Give me Baker against a pass funnel with my dome boner, right?
The other thing about all of these quarterbacks we just said that are going to be less than, 95% is all of them line up for unique double stacks. I would say outside of Lamar Jackson, where there's some fun stuff you can do. You can do the Aguilar, you can do the Bateman. We got the tight end stuff going on. I like Justice Hill. There's stuff you can do there. But you look at Allen, Brock, and Mahomes, and even Stroud. I mean, it's kind of hard to find sneaky double stacks with those guys. Like, I like a good old Nico Dalton Schultz double stack as much as the next guy, but that's getting drafted in every contest. Whereas these other ones, the Goff, Mayfield, Love, there's all kinds of options because these offenses are spreading the ball around so much. So it's almost like you're compounding the benefit. You're getting the hidden gem at quarterback, but then you're also getting spread out offenses that are pushing the ADPs of the pass catchers down as well.
Yeah, love
sense.
it. Yeah.
Let's talk some running back here. I think this is it's a pretty good running back slate. I never really, where are you guys? I never find myself too boxed out at running back this week. Nez, what are you seeing here with this overall running back slate?
Like I said, obviously McCaffrey is his own thing, and it's just a no-brainer 101 click whenever you get him. Big favorites as always, and the Green Bay run defense is something that we've always been attacking in BRs. And even old Tony Redacted had himself a decent game, even though it wasn't the score you needed last week. But on this slate here, after McCaffrey, I think it's really wide open. I'm a little disappointed that Aaron Jones is sitting at 12.5.
Yeah.
I really thought that he was going to be buried, or at least the RB6. That's really upsetting because I think that he's kind of the key to them maybe beating the Niners is, Purdy makes some mistakes and then they're able to run the ball because they can run the ball well. And the Niners, don't really face the run that much because they're always up. But I really do think that can be a key for them. So maybe if Aaron Jones falls in some rooms, I'll be getting there. But it's a shame that he's not going to be unique in the slightest. But I mean, call-out answers, all these guys look great. I am really into James Cook. This will be another James Cook week for me, because of the fact that I think that the Bills can beat the Chiefs pretty decisively. And the James Cook usage kind of trended back in the right direction in a game where they, actually were, up and it was a meaningful game as opposed to what we've seen at the end of the regular season. So kind of really into James Cook. Hopefully we can see 22 touches, maybe even a couple more for him there. And then after that, man, David Montgomery, I think right now is probably another big piece for me too, where I think the Lions can win, and he's always a part of that game plan. If they do end up winning, it's because he is, if they're winning and or just up and they're kind of controlling the game, he's going to be a big part of their game plan. So it's an awesome running back slate, and you can wait a little bit because if you end up with Singletary or Justice Hill, in my opinion, not even close to the worst thing in the world.
John, this is a question for you because Justice Hill is my final running back click. Are you mixing in anything after Justice Hill? And if not, I feel like I don't even know you anymore.
Give me a little Ty Johnson. Give me a little 8 carries last week, utilized in the pass game rule before that. Give me a little scroll the F down to Ty Johnson this week. The fact that they cut Leonard Fournette, the fact that Latavius Murray doesn't touch the field, and we know that they primarily like to use Josh Allen at the goal line, so neither of these running backs are going to see like their fair share at the goal line necessarily. Give me a chance that it is Ty Johnson on a 2-minute drive, and he's in the backfield for a plunge.
The only kind of galaxy brain running back thing that I've been willing to do is double running back. So Gus and Justice, obviously Gibbs and Montgomery. I think you could do the CMC Eli Mitchell if you want to play that as just a complete San Francisco route. That I think will just naturally be underused by the field and could be a good way to capture a ton of running back points.
Nez heard Eli Mitchell and he just couldn't help it.
You got me going. You got me going. No, this is finally Eli Mitchell week. This might be part of the John thesis, even though I'm such a Packers fan for these playoffs. Yeah, I mean, that could very well come into play. It will be very telling, and it'll say a lot about people's best ball bags if the Niners, even if they don't end up winning, and Eli Mitchell has like that last season role, like how you're feeling about your like ancillary Niners and your best ball bags. But I won't be getting to Eli much in these, but I'm glad that you brought up double running back, because I will definitely do some Gibbs and Montgomery in these. That was like one of my best teams last week, and I think it was the third and short. It was a Gibbs and Montgomery team, and these guys can both definitely get home in this matchup. I've even got on my Detroit blue. This was on purpose. This was for the Lions. I had a whiteboard back there, but you couldn't see it. I was trying to put on for the Lions here. Our Lions, one pride. Put them up.
How about hashtag biting kneecaps? Can we get a third one on there?
the blue dry erase markers in the kitchen. I'll have to grab it. We use it to write our meal plans on the fridge, but I need to add that there. Yeah, this is a big time Lions game for me. I got a lot of Lions bags, and I think that they can definitely roll on the Bucks, but
I don't even think that galaxy brain, right? The three that we kind of mentioned, they are, all 6.5 or greater favorites at home. And like they legitimately each have two really good running backs. I guess you could kind of quibble with the Eli Mitchell, but I think like the Gus Justice, obviously the Montgomery Gibbs, and the CMC Eli, like if the spreads are correct and they just kind of stick to their game plan, there's no reason that both of those running backs couldn't get there on a shorter slate like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the way in which the Lions utilize the running back in the red zone. Like we've talked about it ad nauseum for months now, where it's like they're the highest rushing rate in the red zone.
Yep. Any other like thoughts at running back? Have you guys found yourself doing more 2 RB builds or 1 RB builds so far?
I've been doing a lot of 1 and fall back on Singletary because I think Singletary's mispriced. Like obviously the matchup isn't great, but like the dude just doesn't come off the field, and he looked unreal last week. Like he straight up looked unreal. Had a touchdown called back on a hold too, so like that line could have been better than it was.
What about you, Nez?
Primarily 2 RB. I would say like 90% double RB, just based on how I like to play these. But I will like fall back into the 3 wide receivers just based on like where I'm drafting and what the room does. But if I can help it, I want 2 RB for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think that's been my default. I think I've been 2 running back if I get one of the top quarterbacks, and then if I'm the Goff, Mayfield, Love, the double stacks, then I've been doing the 3 wide receivers and just stop at 1 running back. I do think Singletary is a good shout out. He is just a guy that no one ever kind of wants to buy in on. He's kind of like even the poor man's Rachaad White, where everyone's still just like a little skeptical, even though the role is so good. And the other thing about it is, I mean, the Ravens, awesome defense, but if you're going to beat them, it's on the ground. Like they are much more likely to give up running back points. And this is why I kind of like, the Jordan Love stuff. and the Baker stuff even way more than the Stroud is because I do really think they're going to try to establish it on the ground. I think they're going to say, this is the weakness. We want to be a run team. We want to slow this game down. We want to limit the amount of possessions, that the Ravens have. Like, they don't want to get in the back and forth with the Ravens. I think that ends pretty poorly for them. I think we're going to see a ton of Singletary. I think he should maybe be a fixture of one or two of our pick'ems here in a little bit. I like the Singletary call a lot. I think if the Texans hang, it'll be almost as much because of Singletary as it will be because of Stroud. And maybe that's a hot take, but I just think they are going to try to establish it.
No, I really like that shout. And one other little wrinkle I'll add there. I don't know if we have been totally, done with our weather pilling, but this looks like the windiest spot. Cold and breezy, up to 30 mile per hour winds. And we know the tipping point for weather is not freezing temperatures, it's wind, right? So
can we throw it real quick to our weather correspondent, Nez here? Nez, does weather matter?
Does weather matter? Well, it depends if you're playing for $200,000 or not, Pete. It's really windy over here in the Baltimore streets. We're looking at gusts around 30 miles per hour. This is coming directly from my man upstairs, Kevin Roth. Thank you, Kevin, for that. Temp in the upper 20s. That's a chilly one, folks. I would say that, our old Texans are probably not too thrilled about that, but we like a variant. We like a variant game here, and this should be beneficial for our Texans, despite the fact that they are going to be chilly and ice cold.
I was like, that's going to either go two ways. Nez is either going to go full weatherman, or he's just going to say, no, I will never again get psyops by the weather bros. It does not matter.
I'm always good for a little impromptu bit.
Yeah. I don't think we should be factoring it in much here at all. Again, too, like we know all this stuff gets baked in. It's already baked into the lines, which is baked into the projections, which gets baked into the ADP. Pretty much anything after that's double counting.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do think like at my IKB spot, like I like the James Cook stuff. I have no problem playing, one-off pieces, but I haven't found myself gravitating to stacks of the KC Buffalo game, which in a weird way feels kind of bad in that these guys have played really drunk games where they get going. But like this version of these two teams with Pacheco and James Cook, I'm like, the double stack and bringbacks are not naturally finding their way to my rosters with this game.
Doesn't it kind of feel like the new version of those two teams, the ball only moves through like two or three components? Whereas when they played in the past, it was like, oh, maybe it's Gabe Davis, Dave. Maybe it's a Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox in the end zone. Maybe it's whatever, right? Like it could be so many different ways. Now it just feels like if the Bills put up a lot of points, it's all going to funnel through Josh Allen. He's going to score twice on the ground. He is going to run ad nauseum, and Stephon Diggs isn't the guy he once was, kind of thing. And then on the flip side, it's what used to always be, Kelsey Mahomes is actually Mahomes, Rice, and then Pacheco near the goal line.
Yeah.
Yeah, naked Josh Allen paid dividends last week for people, and I see no reason why that can't happen again. Playoff Josh Allen with this current iteration of his receiving core, no one really popping, or no one has really had that quintessential 30-point game. So I think naked Josh Allen does make a lot of sense this week, although I probably won't have a lot of that because of the quarterbacks that we talked earlier. But yeah, this game just doesn't feel like something I want a big part of, which, yeah, if you were to say that in week one, hey, Chiefs and Bills are going to be in the divisional round, and I don't want any part of it, I'd be like, you're crazy. But yeah, here we are, and it feels fine, even borderline good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's dive into wide receiver here. We'll hit all the positions and then rip a couple of drafts. I do feel like wide receiver just gets wiped out so quickly. Pretty much after Brandon Ayuk and Zay Flowers, everyone's kind of like, are we doing this with Stephon Diggs again? And then, like I mentioned, that Godwin and Reed feel like kind of good mid-tier clicks. And then, I know Dobbs is coming off a good game, but we're in just total dart territory once you get to after Dobbs. So how are you guys attacking wide receivers this week?
I want to put on my film bro hat for 1 second with Stephon Diggs here. We saw basically last week the only way in which Miami won was just Tyreek getting loose. It was like one screenplay, and then it was one double move over the top. Tyreek gets loose and then makes everybody miss. I don't think Stephon Diggs has that gear in him. If I'm looking for the guy who beats over the top, I think it's way more likely to be, Gabe Davis, who I don't think is going to play as of right now. I think he fits more like what we saw, like slower Jalen Waddle mold, and Jalen Waddle did nothing last week against Trent McDuffie, who's like a legit like best slot corner in the league. So I'm not drinking the Stephon Diggs Kool-Aid right now. He's not a guy that traditionally speaking, if I saw him, buried in the ranks like this comparative to, some of the likes of Zay Flowers going over him and whatnot, or second option in San Francisco going over him, I'd be like, man, this seems like a good spot to get overweight and attach him to QB1. I just, from like a football standpoint, I just don't see it this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And I think the conversation for wide receiver really does kind of begin after Zay. And for me, like, the Green Bay stuff is really interesting because I am once again surprised the field is like not backing down from Jaden Reed. Like, what happened to the platform I love where people just went absolutely way overboard with the recency bias? Like, we're doing Jaden Reed over Dubs. Like,
I know. I was like, we could just flip that. Come on.
Look at the state of DFS, man. What the hell's going on? Come on, guys. Look at the box scores. Like, Jaden Reed had a 0. But here we are.
I think if this slate was open for like a month, like just say the NFL was on pause and we just kept drafting this, I think eventually we'd get a Khalil Shakur, Stephon Diggs flippening. Like, I think that's what happened at some point.
That would be fantastic. It feels like Khalil Shakur had like way more than like 371 or whatever he had. I could have swore he had like 8 catches in that game.
It was that highlight, dude. It was just the sickest touchdown catch, and everyone was just like, "God, he's the alpha."
And that was kind of his calling card coming out of school to be the college film bro. Is that he was like a really good yak guy. So maybe he can do that again against Kansas City. Who knows? I mean, he's definitely in play, and he's in play for everybody. Obviously, I mean, wide receiver 12. That's essentially an ADP 30, essentially being drafted every time. I will be going back to the Christian Watson well, though. I'm not ready to rule this dude out. Like, yes, he was not involved at all. And yes, other wide receivers are doing a great job at for Jordan Love here. But in a game against the Niners, I mean, it's not going to surprise anybody if the Packers find themselves down and they need to take some home run shots. And while other wide receivers were able to get those home run shots, like Watson is I mean, that's his calling card. That's what he does. So for a nice little boomer bust play, my generation's Will Fuller, give me Christian Watson here and at an undrafted clip.
I was just going to say Christian Watson's a great, you just mentioned, wide receiver convo starts off Zay Flowers. That's tier 1. Then you have this tier 2, the Diggs down through Odell Beckham, right? Mm-hmm. And these are kind of the shaky plays, right? Because they're getting drafted in every single contest, but they don't necessarily have the path to the massive ceiling and target share that those top guys do. And then after Odell, this is where you get into the hidden gems, not drafted in every contest, and really start to get interesting. John, are you on the Watson stuff? I think I'm a Wicks man myself, but where do you go here?
Yeah, I think he's still playing hurt. I think we talked about it last week where it's like, I think Wicks and Melton had done enough to stay relevant in the rotation. And they've talked so much how like Wicks is a 1-for-1 replacement for Watson. Do I think he has like range outcomes to like spike one, big one? Yeah, but I think I'd be going to Wicks. And the fact that he's below him just doubles down on that for me.
Are you... Nez, are you that strong Watson over Wicks, or will you just draft them at a similar clip?
No, I truthfully, I kind of bake in what I'm doing in the best ball streets as well as like and pick and choose my prices. Cause it's like, it's weird that these guys have different prices whenever they are like the same position. So for me, it's been like Watson here, Wicks over there. And because I've got enough Watson bags existing in the best ball pieces that have advanced for me. So I want my Wicks share in those new battle royale and those new best ball streets. So I'm going Watson here even still. But I am ready to throw out another name though. If you
I would love to hear it.
So this you guys might enjoy this. This one is coming from this is Rashad Bateman. Let's just throw that out there. Rashad Bateman, right? So I had dinner with my wife's cousins, and her cousin's husband is a big Ravens fan. And he's instilling this confidence in me, in Rashad Bateman, and that like he's so adamant in that. So I don't know if you guys saw that recent like interview story about Bateman, that he was like playing hurt, almost like had surgery, almost missed the season. He's adamant that this bye week that they just had and the pseudo bye week against the Steelers is what Bateman needed to get back to the level that he needs to be at to play his best football. Who's to say Rashad Bateman doesn't have a little emergence here? Like 6-4 against Miami in a must-win game. Like, okay, that's encouraging. Like, you know, what if he takes one of those to the house this week? Can 13 points from a wide receiver 2 be enough to win in this week? Because I think he has that in his unfortunate ceiling, but I do think it's attainable.
I don't hate it. The one thing I would say about Baltimore, like just in general for their wide receivers, is give me the one who is going to play on the opposite side of Stingley, because Stingley doesn't travel, right? So whether it's Odell on the perimeter or whether it's Bateman on the perimeter, give me the guy on the opposite side of that. So I'm going to look up some usage splits as who lines up where, because that would be my football guy take between those two.
I love this take, Nez. I've been one of the Bateman bros for years on it, so I do feel a little scarred. But if I just completely detach myself, right? We have Baltimore with a massive team total. We have a Texans secondary that has been atrocious. They famously gave up 900 points to just Amari Cooper a few weeks ago. Then you have 2 Ravens wide receivers who have an ADOT higher than 10. It's Odell Beckham and it's Rashad Bateman. Odell Beckham's getting drafted in essentially 100% of drafts. Let's even just be generous and say it's like 85 to 90%. Bateman getting drafted in 0. Like if both of them are playing on the outside, and now you're telling me John saying Odell could get shut down by Stingley. He's getting his hand in the dirt and Bateman's just running free. Our generation's Amari Cooper. I'm sold.
Yeah, the thing that Stingley actually shadowed last week. So I didn't realize that he shadowed Amari last week, because all year he hadn't traveled at all. Like he literally hadn't left the one side. So interesting to see. I don't think the Ravens would be a team that you travel against, because Zay plays so much out of the slot, right? Like it'd be fine to travel versus Amari, but yeah, interesting. Okay, let's talk about the dome boner. Let's talk about the third piece of the scroll the F down. We're getting to Evans. We're getting to Godwin.
Wait, they
probably
outside.
getting.
You didn't hear Ford Field?
Retractable roof today.
Oh man, that was.
Did you see that clip, John?
No.
Oh, this poor lady. I guess there was like a shakeup where with some of the newspaper, and they had to bring in like their general news team to cover this game. So she wasn't like an initiated reporter. And she went and she did this long spiel with Todd Bowles saying like, are you guys worried about the weather? And she started listing off the temperatures, and Bowles just like lets her finish. He goes, you do know we play in a dome, right? It's indoors.
He had a great clip though of like talking to Cardi about projections, and then Cardi just, you do know they play in a dome, right? He just said it so like matter of fact, and like it was great.
He was so nice to her. I felt bad. Anyways, you're starting to go on a Bucs rant here.
Yeah. So kind of those three will be like mixed in everybody's player pool. Obviously, White will be too. Are we buying any of the usage flip here? More snaps for David Moore than Trey Palmer last week. I don't know if Trey Palmer is going to wake up pissed off again or not. They went David Moore's way before they went Palmer's way, though they scored on like almost very similar plays. Is there anything there? Are we going to get to the third and or fourth wide receiver from the Bucs there?
Yeah, I'm pulling up week 18 and 19 usage. Trey Palmer, week 18, 70% of the snaps, then down to 33%, obviously pissed off. And then you see the big jump for David Moore. And talking about spreading it around, I mean, Tevin Tompkins is even out here on the field for 11 and 12% of the routes. But man, yeah, like I guess the big riddle is like, what do you think this David Moore usage is real here to stick?
I'll say that I'm looking at snaps as well, and this is the first time in which he has out-snapped Trey Palmer. So I don't know if it was just like a better scheme fit or if it's something they worked on coming into the playoffs. But Trey Palmer had basically not been below 50 in a minute and then played 34%, and he played 46% of snaps this week. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, to be honest. Like, I just David Moore, like professional wide receiver from the Seahawks era, as just like the guy ripping your heart out when you played the shit out of Tyler Lockett. Like we're doing it all over again here.
I'm gonna be Palmer over Moore this week.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, the sample just kind of speaks for itself there. What I think might have happened with the David Moore stuff is the Bucs were like, is this Eagles secondary really as bad as we think? Let's give David Moore the ball and like find out. And it turns out they were able to give David Moore the ball and he was able to have success. And they're like, holy shit, this team fucking sucks. Like, let's go. And so they just needed to embarrass them a little bit there. No, I mean, it's definitely like throws a big wrench into things for sure, but I'm definitely going Trey Palmer as like my sneaky one-off if I have to, / like my favorite piece in the returns best ball streets where I'm building out Bucks.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? Like if you were having to break a tie, like I think the Odell versus Bateman's a good example. Like Odell's getting selected a lot, and that starts to make Bateman look like a really good play. If you get to just pick your favorite. It's like betting into a market where there's no hold, right? Because you're able to reduce it. That it's like, all right, just choose your favorite between Moore and Trey Palmer at this, because neither of them are getting drafted. So I'm with you. I think Trey Palmer's the better play. I do wonder, like, are we going to get just Trey Palmer pissed off like steam? Because this story and this thing is like gone viral within our sub community here. So that's like a legit consideration.
Yeah.
That bit is so funny to me, man. Like when I first saw like how often he was saying that, like I was like, God, this dude is like, it's just fucking hilarious. Like that is just, and the way that he switches up, it's not always like a scheduled tweet. I woke up pissed off. I woke up pissed off. Little variations. Like for some reason, I woke up more pissed off than ever. Like that. It's so fucking funny to me.
It's good.
It's
one. Can I do one more gal brain here?
Yeah.
No running back this season has cut into snaps more of Rachaad White than Chase Edmonds did in the first game of the playoffs there. And maybe a little bit of that was like a last drive where it's like low key, like garbage-er time. But he did have a couple series to himself and played 30% of snaps. And that's the highest rate for a backup running back in Tampa this year. Is there anything to take us back to BBM 4 draft window, 5th round pick Chase Edmonds to pat ourselves, or BBM 3, I guess, BBM 3?
It seems a little too gal brain to me. Like, say if it was like the Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and you just dropped those two guys on the Bucks and you put the Bucks running backs on the Ravens, like then I'm like, all right, let's do the Justice Hill thing. Like Tampa Bay's interior run defense, like a little bit better. Maybe he's the space back, but like Rachaad White is also going to be the primary pass catching back. So I feel like the ways you're getting there with Chase Edmonds are in like a route. And then it's like, well, is Rachaad White part of them getting to that spot? It's a little tougher sell for me, only 6% of the targets. But I guess, like you said, I mean, Rachaad was only at 9% last week too.
Yeah, I'm probably good on Edmonds, but definitely in returns consideration for your Bucks teams. I think that makes a lot of sense because it definitely like intrigued me. I was like, oh, he actually like has like a little role here, and he's looking decent in that role too. So definitely like intriguing, but I will like take Rachaad White at a pretty sizable clip.
Okay. One other kind of scroll the F down receiver situation I want to hit on. I see Cuber in the chat mentioning the Josh Reynolds stuff. I do think the Lions fringe wide receivers, particularly just Reynolds and Jameson Williams, are kind of interesting to talk through because they're not getting drafted. We know that like if Jared Goff is hitting as the optimal quarterback, there's probably at least 2 pass catchers that are coming along with him. Obviously, Amon-Ra and Laporta would be who you would want to gravitate to. But do you guys have a preference on the Jameson Williams versus Josh Reynolds stuff?
Well, Jameson broke my heart last week, so let's just flip the script. We're going to Josh Reynolds this week. We're just axing that one. No, he outsnapped him. He played like 86% of the snaps comparative to like 70, and maybe that was a byproduct of Khalif Raymond not being there and Josh Reynolds just moving into that. But Khalif Raymond still hasn't practiced this week, so I think it might be low-key far-fetched to anticipate he plays this week. So going back to what we just saw with Josh Reynolds, I mean, the volume was wild. Like, they were clearly peppering him. Now you can go spin zone narrative on it and be like, well, we just wanted to show off our previous Rams stack against the Rams in the first quarter, because like Dan Campbell doing something petty as hell like that would just be so fitting to just be like, hey, remember these guys, and pepper it, because it was almost all in the first quarter that we saw the majority of Josh Reynolds' usage. So some of it might have been scripted for that first drive, and I'm not sure they go back to the well in that regard. But yeah, obviously just two very different profiles, and I like the volume and I like the snaps for Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean, like when you look at it looks like his playing time. I would have to specifically go look. It looked like Khalif played a little bit in their week 17 game there, or week 18, I should say. But I mean, it's like Josh Reynolds' usage has just completely popped there. And it's almost like Jameson Williams' role like never really changes. You know, he's still likely to get a big play. I mean, he's the Gabe Davis. He's the Christian Watson of this team.
Yeah. As the resident Jameis stan, I think that he just like he's sort of decoyish, right? Where like you have to respect the speed, and when he's on the field, like you kind of have to have eyes on him, because if you let him break free, like he can beat you deep. And, you know, maybe the X's and O's, he actually does a lot for how defenses have to scheme when he is on the field. But as far as our contests go, I mean, I've seen enough from what Josh Reynolds has done. He is clearly like a strong number 2 option, even over like Laporta. I would venture to guess, just in the open field, maybe less in the red zone. But yeah, Reynolds is like a very much interesting click this week. I don't remember what his ADP is at, but man, I'm sold.
I'm glad you brought up Laporta, because I think a lot of his usage is tethered to the fact that Laporta was playing less in the middle of the field and more in just the red zones. He played like his 3rd lowest snap rate of the season last week. Obviously, some of that tethered to the fact that he was injured, but also the fact that they didn't have James Mitchell, who's like a good like inline block tight end for them as well. Maybe they just felt like more comfortable with like a veteran wide receiver who can block in the middle of the field. And then some of those Laporta routes went Josh Reynolds' way, like between the 20s when Laporta was off the field. So they didn't have the ability to run 2 tight end sets because of Laporta's health and Mitchell not being there.
Let's hit on tight end quickly so we can have some time to do a couple drafts before we dive into pick'ems. I have a hard out at 1:30, and I want to make sure we have at least 25, 30 minutes here to build some fun pick'ems.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tight end is both interesting and I feel like fairly straightforward. The most interesting thing to me is the Q tag with Mark Andrews and how you can play this. And like for me, the nut outcome with this is someone takes Dalton Schultz and leaves Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, and you're the last person, and you get to free roll the Mark Andrews thing. You take Mark Andrews. If he doesn't play, boom, you're autoing into Isaiah Likely and expanded workload. Andrews goes, you're probably getting a top 3, top 4 tight end on the slate at top 7 prices, top 6, 7. So that's my favorite angle to play when it breaks. I've been doing a lot of Mark Andrews Q tag, scrolling down for the Packers and Cade Otton stuff. Anything else that kind of jumps out to you guys as strategic angles at tight end?
How about instead of waiting for it to come to you, you force the issue and take Mark Andrews in the 4th, and then force your opponent's hands into having to take Schultz? Then you get the free swap. Or if they go the Likely route, you play double tight end.
There you go.
I hadn't been doing that enough. It's almost like when we're doing our playoff best ball drafts and you just start ripping off all the players from the same team and you're like, I have squatters rights on this.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm taking it now. Just get out of my way.
Exactly. Right. I'm very interested. Like this ADP on Mark Andrews is interesting. And again, like, I don't know if this is just like drafters being sharp or like just like a delayed reaction to the Mark Andrews stuff. Cause I guess there is a chance that, maybe he doesn't play like, because he has gone through, even when healthy, like games of playing only like 56% of snaps and stuff. But this is like a very obviously like it's a playoff game, for God's sake. I wonder if he's going to be limited at any capacity in this game. But I think that price is just like fantastic. And, you know, when building out Lamar teams, it's almost like a no-brainer to just like get Andrews like kind of late there. So I'm like really like grappling with what to do at tight end, because it seems flat, and ideally everybody, you know, we just all hold hands together, and no matter who you take, your tight end is scoring like 12 to 14 points, and it really doesn't matter who you have. But kind of seems like Lamar and Mark Andrews is just like the nuts.
The contrarian way to build that too is to not tether it to Lamar. Obviously, it feels better and comfy to do that. But if you run like naked Josh Allen, because people are really staying in their lanes in terms of like correlating their tight end this week, I think there's a little bit of leverage on a shorter slate. Like in a vacuum, I agree with that strategy on a large scale BR. But this week, I think there's a little bit of leverage in like running one off Mark Andrews or whatever, because everyone who sets this up is doing it with Lamar.
It's a good point.
And I don't know, again, it's a recency bias example, but I was, way too bearish last week on Sam Laporta relative to what he ended up doing. 80% of the snaps, scored a TD. It ended up not mattering because Jake Ferguson went nuke. But there are slates where Ferguson doesn't go nuke, and those, points from Laporta are very valuable at that cost. So
counting them Scalances right now, buddy. Counting them.
Yeah. So I'm not going to look over Andrews. I mean, I do like Schultz in Otten and the Packers tight ends a good bit. I think it's a fun tight end slate because there's so many kind of different ways you can go after the top 5.
I'm going to be scrolling, I think.
Yeah.
Schultz being the tight end 7 is like kind of has me like really surprised. Otten in a matchup where I think they're going to have to be throwing, and we just saw the good usage against the Lions, like looks really interesting. And then Musgrave, another week healthier, saw some good usage from him in a matchup where they're probably going to have to throw the ball a lot too. So I like all these back end tight ends. Like I said, it's when a tight end smashes, it's like it's fun, and it's also like the slate becomes extremely binary when that happens. So I'll take it either way, but it's tough, man. These tight ends are generally the skeleton key unless they all cancel each other out.
John, one more tight end topic. Are you on team Tucker Kraft or team Musgrave? It's kind of like the David Moore, Trey Palmer spot.
Yeah, I think it's Musgrave now. I think like the coach speak and his own speak from last week is just like, all right, I think he's finally healthy. I think the original week coming back and like them relying on Tucker was just like a recency thing. And okay, maybe he's not 100% healthy because he had the 21-day window and then he practiced at a limited capacity through it. And he wasn't like really ready through that window. I think he needed one more week of practice and now he's actually ready. And I think like this is the big flippening week. We saw it a little bit. I was looking at it earlier. Let me just clarify right now. Yeah, I mean, like still only 27% of snaps last week. But that was down. You saw Tucker Kraft come down from 90 to 80, and then like he went up from 15 to 27. I think the trajectory goes like this and a little bit more of a flippening this week.
Yeah.
I mean, Tucker Kraft's a good football player though. Like just, yeah.
My take was the same as yours, John. I did think it was interesting. ETR has Kraft projected ahead. We're talking about fractions of a point. I think it was like 4.7 to 4.2, but still like kind of notable to me that they hadn't flipped that yet either.
Mm-hmm.
All right, should we rip a couple drafts here before we get in the pick'em streets?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to need these main BRs to pick it up. I think if we can all collectively jam in there, that'd be great. Let's jam in that third and short because Numi's a little scared, and we need more of these small field contests. These small field contests are where it's at, and I need at least one more of these bad ones.
What is he scared about? Yeah, I mean, they can fill these $3.20 maxes in a day. I mean, we should be on the hurry up 69 by now. What's going on?
Seriously, those hurry ups, like I'll be honest, those hurry ups are where like I try to go like 1 or 0, and I set, maybe some contrarian stacks up, and and like it's just my robots in the hurry ups. Like I'm really trying to just like scoop city over there. So
we got to get you to branch out a little bit more from just the football stuff. We're slowly going to get you there, but then you'll realize why we're not on Hurry Up 69, because there's 15,000 in NBA last night. There was golf filling at 8 a.m. Pacific this morning. Like, we filled a full golf for 4K to first this morning. Like, it's crazy.
I will probably get there after this week. I have a cross-country flight, though, where I will be maxing, assuming I can make sure I'm able to actually draft on the plane. I will be maxing out the BR on a 5.5-hour flight to California. All right. Lamar or Debo is generally the decision point here, unless you got anything, Galbrain.
Are you guys Josh Allen QB1? Like, we see it happen here.
I think I'm Lamar over him.
Okay. Let's do Lamar then.
Team?
Yeah, let's build a Lamar team. This team is programmed to have Rashad Bateman anyways.
Yeah, let's do like a Lamar Bateman Andrews or something like that, and play like a double stack. That's one thing we didn't talk about, just in terms of the correlation, the fact that it's a 4-game slate now. Are you guys playing this more like third and short style, looking for a lot more double stacks, looking for onslaughts and game stacks and stuff like that? Is that where your mind goes?
Ideally, but like you still really have to hit the nuts. I can't remember the winner last week, but let's make this pick here.
I like Ayuk over Nico this week, and I think Nico with Lamar will be so chalky because everyone's brain goes run back and the ADPs line up better.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, especially this is a spot, right, where if we know we're going to go with a Baltimore tight end, it makes kind of Kittle not as attractive. You could do the 2 tight end thing, like we said. But then for me, it's like anytime you have a chance to get one of these Niners, I want to have one of them. It's like, we know they're going to put up their 35 points. And so in this spot, Debo gone, CMC gone, Kittle not quite as attractive in the context of what we're doing. Boom, take Ayuk.
Another thing I've noticed is you also open yourself up if you get squeezed on Andrews likely and you don't want to take like likely without Andrews or vice versa. Like you can just add on Schultz, and that's your run back, where it feels grosser to do Nico and Schultz as double bring back.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out here. So now we're, based on how we're kind of building, look at the wide receivers just absolutely wiped. I love Gibbs in this spot, but I'm also open to Cook or Rashad.
Depends how far you want to scroll.
No, I would say Gibbs.
I'd say Godwin.
That is if you want to get that wide receiver now. The question is, would he be here whereas Gibbs isn't? I bet we can get Godwin still, John. That's my
all right. Let's do it.
And if not, we do have a wide receiver 2 already, just already in there. We already have our wide receiver.
We already got Bateman.
Bateman's there. Bateman's already there. The points are already they're already there.
Yeah.
I like the Ayuk pick. This is Pete, you're going to get your lick back on the Ayuk over Debo from the weeks where it's cost you. Ayuk's going to serve you well this week, I think.
I hope so. I mean, truthfully, I'm drafting both. Whenever I can get them. I've been getting a decent amount of like Ayuk, Debo at the turn, and normally like in the larger slate BRs. Here you go, John.
Here you go.
I have been. I would kind of shy away from that, just knowing how you get kind of the single alpha game, and it's like, let me pick my spots. But on this slate, I have no problem with a Brock, Debo, Ayuk double.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you there big time. So last week, the flex position for the winner of the BR, it was Devin Singletary, and that was good for 14.5. And I think by double tapping, those wide receivers, and maybe, you flex at running back. I'm with you. I really do think that onslaughting, or at least from the wide receiver position, can work for you, or at least puts you in a pretty nice cash line.
So in this room, everyone has taken their tight end except us in the team on the turn, Dum Dum. They have not taken their quarterback either. Feel like they could go in a lot of different directions here, but yeah, we can kind of think through. Do we want to just take Andrews here first?
Yeah, I take Andrews first because Bateman's not going to go as a one-off.
I don't know. The steam's coming, man. People have been watching this show. They're piling in to load up on Bateman.
We're closing in on 240 people. Oh my goodness. This is the steam's coming, man. We're about to see a flipping.
Let me ask you. Oh, Andrews does go. So we could do something like we could do
Schultz, Singletary,
the Bateman Schultz.
Yeah,
you
or Bateman Schultz. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Schultz.
Yeah, let's do the Schultz bait. Well, this is what I was just going to ask you. What play do you guys like better? Just like purely in a vacuum, projected points, no other context. Isaiah Likely without Mark Andrews, or Mark Andrews active with obviously Isaiah Likely active?
Likely without Andrews.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's the only kind of thing, thinking through too of I want to make sure that I don't end up with like zero Likely either, because you're just hammering that Q tag edge, because that scenario is still the best of the Ravens tight end scenarios. And it looks like he's going to play full practice, but weirder stuff has happened, setbacks, yada, yada. I mean, the Likely stuff could be a smash if Andrews doesn't go.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right.
Here we go. Steam.
Bateman. This is a good squad. Lamar, Ayuk, Gibbs, Godwin, Schultz, Bateman. So not pulling too many levers there, except the Bateman one, which is a pretty big lever to pull, and then compounding your bet on your first round pick. I do love the idea of kind of skinny stacking Lamar. Just knowing my own kind of biases and tendencies, I definitely have been leaning into double stacks, probably even a smidge too much this week, considering how big the contest is still. So the skinny stacks there. And I mean, we're really just trying to pick off all the points from those spots there with that team. So I like that squad.
Yeah, likewise.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. I think we got to get in the pick'em streets. I think we gotta cook.
Let's spice it up.
I think we should. I think we should aim for three pick'em builds, the kind of classic from the gut. Who are the guys that are mispriced? Let's just put them in, play the best plays.
Ooh.
A game stack one. Which game do we think is maybe getting slept on? And then the allspice special.
Okay. I like that a lot. First things first with the pick'em. Two things, Pete. Yep. We have the new injury coverage that is carrying on through the postseason here. So if you nail, call it, 3 of your picks, and then your fourth one happens to get injured in the first half of the ball game. Let's say Mark Andrews, heaven forbid, comes back. He comes back a little too soon from that injury, doesn't come back out for the second half. That will be insured you'll get your money back for that one. And then the other thing that's new is you guys are going to be building on desktop here. I'm going to build alongside on mobile right now, because I don't know if you guys saw the new interface.
Yeah, it's clean. I don't know.
Oh,
Pete's is coming in the mail.
Hasn't come to Siberia yet.
On the old on the Android, maybe not yet, but iOS has a really clean update for pickups. So
I'm going to add. Actually, that's not a good one to add because they don't have faces on that one. But basically, all the faces to your entry pop up at the base here now. But I was going to say, I'll just add the nothing but net, but it's a college basketball one where the players' faces aren't even in it. So I'll do DeMar DeRozan lower and Scotty Barnes. Point Scotty is back higher. And you can see at the base there.
Hang on, let me get
it. Look at that. Look at those headshots.
Oh, that's nice. There you go.
Yeah. So you get the headshots, and then the multiplier X's are there. I think maybe if we focus it a little bit. Yeah.
That's clean.
Really nice.
All right. We got to roll up our sleeves because we got less than 25 minutes here to build 3. I'm going to start with one of my favorites on the slate. It is Dalton Schultz, over 37.5 receiving yards. If we're
I believe you mean higher, Pete.
Higher. If we're projecting a negative game script, Ravens pretty good on the outside. I think Dalton Schultz is a big part of the game plan. I think I saw Noah Brown didn't practice. Someone mentioned that in the chat.
He's on the IR, actually, I think.
Is he now on IR? Okay.
I thought he was.
So,
I could be making that up.
I love the Schultz stuff. Let me get one of your guys' favorite plays here.
Well, this one's going to be like a little out there, maybe for some people, but I kind of like the Jared Goff lower on passing yards.
Okay.
280 is kind of a lot, and they're 6-point favorites. And I think if you're playing the higher, then we need to run it back with a Tampa higher as well somewhere. But for me, I think I like the lower, and I'm not sure if we get docked for something with Montgomery or Gibbs, but maybe pairing this with like rushing attempts for or something with Gibbs and Montgomery would be a nice way to kind of correlate with that without getting too much of a dock.
That's exactly where my mind went when you said that, Nez, is like now you do, yeah, maybe even rivals will dock it less, but you do something on the rush side.
So they aren't docking that. If you do Goff, lower pass yards, Gibbs, higher than 10 rushing attempts. He was at 8 versus the Rams, but they were throwing a decent.
That was a close game.
There. Yeah.
This is sort of implying they route.
Yeah. We could also see if there's anything rush yards, David Montgomery over Rachaad White. Oh, rushing and receiving Gibbs versus Rachaad White. They're giving Gibbs 8.5 there.
Whoa.
That seems fun.
That seems like a lot. Do we like that more than rushing attempts?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it plays into what we're talking about here too, where Gibbs is involved either in the like passes to Gibbs are kind of pseudo rush attempts anyways, even though that does negatively impact the Goff passing yards. But I like the thesis of this because it's more so Rachaad White not getting used as much because they're down. Yeah, I mean, in that scenario, I think Rachaad White is still getting catches, but I feel like you just have outs both ways there with Gibbs. John, what do you got one that you just feel deep down inside of you?
I mean, this might be too on brand that I like a spice, and it's only a 1.25. It's the Musgrave 2.5 reception spice. Maybe we keep it in our back. Maybe we keep it in our back pocket. But I don't know. The Musgrave and Kraft stuff is like very similar, and they're giving us the spice on the Musgrave side, but not the Kraft, and they're both 2.5s. So maybe not for this one, but maybe we just keep that one in our back pocket.
I thought you were going to say Musgrave like TD or whatever, and I was like, let's save it. But I mean, the 2.5 receptions, he had 3 last week in his first game back.
In only 20% of snaps.
I like that a lot. I think that can be part of this.
We got to hurry up. Anytime you find a sneaky spice, it's done. It's like it gets the chopper.
So the other one, so I was checking out what Ulrich had flagged. The other two that he liked, although we can't use Rachaad White in this one, he likes him over 22.5 receiving yards. And then the Reed stuff. So Reed is at only 42.5 receiving yards. You know, when he was on a previous kind of heater, his line was always in the like 50 to 55 yard for his receiving. So we're getting kind of a buy the dip on Jaden Reed if you guys like going back there.
Let's go back to the well. He owes it to us, and he did us right. He was part of that big 5X or the 20Xer that we got. What was it? 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Let's do right by our guys. This is a locker room pick. You know, building the mantra in the clubhouse.
Yeah, and this one is because of the Musgrave and no doc. We're getting a 25X on this one. So for the audio listeners, and I will drop this link in the chats, in the Discord, Dalton Schultz higher than 37.5, Jared Goff lower than 280.5 passing yards, Jahmyr Gibbs versus Rachaad White total scrimmage yards, and we're getting 8.5 adjustment on Gibbs, and then we're going to 2 Packers in that negative game script. Luke Musgrave spice 2.5 receptions or more for 1.25X, and Jaden Reed 42.5 receiving yards. That pays out 25X. Nez got it in the chat. I'll drop it in the private chat for you guys. And
yeah, that was for the YouTube people on the Badge Bro side, since like we're splitting up.
Let's get that in the I'll post all I'm just gonna save these to a clipboard and I'll post them all at once when we are done. Which one would you guys like to do for a game one? We were kind of dancing around some stuff. We like the Packers. There's some stuff you could do maybe with the Lions. mean, we could go. Do we go to the Bucks, John? Is that where we go?
I think if you want to play the game environment one, that feels like the best one to play. Unless you want to play like an onslaught narrative of whichever you guys prefer between Niners and Ravens. So we could do like a 4-1 from either of those two. But I think if you want to play like total game going nuke, it runs through the Baker side playing pushback. And I think the Baker side for passing attack looks better than the Lions side, and you can run it back with like some rushing stuff from the Lions side.
Oh my God. I just noticed they pulled it. I messaged you guys yesterday and I said, Underdog screwed up. They were giving us spice on Mike Evans TD. It was at 1.25x. I don't even see it.
Oh, God damn, that would have been
That was going to be a staple. Yeah. I mean,
can you drop? Sorry, Pete. Can you drop the other link? Pete's link's not working for me for whatever reason. Can you drop the other link in the private chat?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I double pressed it. Try that one.
Okay. Thank you.
So to
there
me, like the Baker passing yards definitely stand out at 254 here. I mean, other than that total stinker against Carolina, he's been clearing this. I mean, that one just seems very nice to me there.
Agreed. I mean, nothing to add. I think that's just a really nice projection, and I think that they're going to be passing a lot. So we like that one.
I was reading Dwayne McFarland today did his rankings piece. He wrote up Mike Evans. He is above market, and by market I just mean Underdog ADP. Oh Jesus, on Mike Evans this week. ETR has an aggressive projection on Mike Evans. Dwayne was talking about how Evans just rips up man coverage, and Detroit plays a ton of man. So I would be fine with receiving yards or fantasy points here if you guys want the touchdown out.
I want the touchdown out, please.
Yep.
Yeah, I like fantasy points. Part of me thinks that 3.5 first downs is like really good too, but I'm never gonna play that just because like I don't have like any sort of data point to look back on. But I feel like Mike Evans does nothing but catch passes for more than 10 yards. But we'll go fantasy points. We'll go fantasy points.
Pete, can you do the yardage and see what the multiplier looks like though? Because that went to
2.5,
2.85 or 5.8.
It goes even lower, 2.37.
All right, let's do the fantasy points then.
I think, I had mentioned it before. I know Jeff had flagged this one. I definitely like the Rashad White 22.5 receiving yards. We're going to continue to get dinged, obviously, here. Or do you guys have another spot? Honestly, the Godwin number looks kind of frothy to me.
1.75.
Yeah, what's the other one I would throw it is what's the Kate Otten stuff look like?
Kate Otten's down at 29.5, 3 receptions.
Interesting. Just in general, that feels interesting. Maybe it's a little too thin for
What
like
about
the game environment one.
What about the self-anointed piss boy?
Trey?
Mr. Pissed Off himself, Trey Palmer.
17.5 seems like a nice number.
For a guy that's been playing 70% of snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to because we are getting like dinged like crazy, but I do kind of like it.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can claw back some multiplier here. I mean, I feel like just playing the Trey Palmer of Detroit, playing the Josh Reynolds 39.5 feels pretty good, or the 3 receptions. I mean, he's been
5 receptions.
3 receptions? Holy
yeah,
crap.
I like the receptions a lot.
So now the question is, like, if we just do another random pick, I'm just putting this in real quick just to see, you get up to 13.58 on the 5 leg, or do we want to introduce a spice to get us up closer to, the 20x?
Well, so what's the other spice options? There's Gibbs receptions. Then what else is there?
There's Gibbs. There's Josh Reynolds TD is the 2x. Laporta TD at 1.5x is pretty interesting. JMO at 2x. Like if you did the Laporta 1.5 TD, you do get to the 20
Let's do it. I like that.
Yeah, I like keeping it with one game, and that's a fun spice.
Yeah. All right. Let's lock this one in here. For the audio listeners, we got of course I placed it and then it went away. But I saved the link here. The final one for this game one is Baker Mayfield higher than 255.5 passing yards. Mike Evans higher than 12.35 fantasy points. Trey Palmer woke up pissed off and went higher than 17.5 receiving yards. Josh Reynolds, the new wide receiver 2 on the Lions, over or higher than 3 receptions. And Sam Laporta spice to get us up to that 20x there.
Trey Palmer just needs to wake up. He doesn't even need to wake up pissed off.
You're right. just needs to be on the field.
All right. And now it is time to spice it up.
Oh, buddy. This is my favorite part of the show every week.
I mean, and the thing is we get the goal is to get to the 100x, but normally that's via TDs, but it doesn't necessarily have to be if we like, that Trey Palmer or some of the reception ones here. It's always like the thing that's fun is scanning through and seeing like which kind of studs are you getting a 1.5x, on theirs. Mm-hmm. Like Ayuk, you're getting the 1.25.
Which game is first? Texans Ravens is first, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Saturday, 4:30 Eastern.
Should we do the progressive, like one from each, or should we
the progressive's fun.
Is there anything on the tight ends? Probably not, right? Not yet.
I thought, there's a Schultz. The Schultz at 2.25 is just starting with a goddamn bang.
That is, if you get that leg out of the way, like we get that pick done, like the rest is smooth sailing. Like this is like we start with the sweat.
Dude, I love that. I mean,
2.25 is
especially if we get as soon as you guys said the Noah Brown stuff, if we get no Noah Brown, then we also go. I mean, Robert Woods hasn't been heavily involved, but he's limited. Same with John Mechie, limited. Neither a beacon of health. Like there's some weird stuff that can happen there with the Texans, and Schultz and Nico are the only two. Yeah, definitively no Noah Brown. IR.
Mm-hmm. Bateman has one for receptions too, by the way, Pete.
He does. A spice.
2.5 reception is for 1.25. So we don't have to, but just FYI for the audience.
I definitely like the Ayuk. I like the Reed. The Ayuk's at 1.25. The Reed's at 1.5. I
like the Musgrave receptions one. You're not going to see it now because you put in TD, but the Musgrave reception one jumps out to me.
Yeah,
yep.
I think we include that one in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my flagging of the plant.
I think Rachaad White at 1.25 is still always in play, just with how involved he is. We haven't even talked about this Chiefs game. I'm seeing what we have here. James Cook at 1.25 seems nice.
Love it.
John's not saying anything. He's
because John wants to play. John hates James Cook. He hates.
I'm done with James Cook.
Always hates James Cook. He sees
it's a nice play here.
All right,
and he still doesn't want it.
So we're up to 21x here. We got some work to do to get to this 100x bomb. I mean, is Brock Purdy going to throw 3 passing TDs?
So, I mean, if we need one normal one, Brock Purdy's fantasy points projection right now, I don't know if you guys want to get it. Dude, only 18. This guy, he's going higher than this, like no question.
If you
unless he makes like mad mistakes.
Oh, they won't let us do that.
My thing with the Purdy one obviously is like, what if we targeted all year long against Green Bay, right? Like their run funnel, and McCaffrey has one of the highest projections we've ever seen for an isolated week, let alone a playoff week. It's just kind of like when they get down there, like this could be the McCaffrey hat trick day and nothing else matters. But if they score from distance, yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Copper, our resident mathematician in the chat, saying we need at least one 1.5 or two 1.25s. So
Okay.
good to know. Thank you for that.
Let's see here. What else is anything standing out? I was seeing on KC, we're not getting pretty much any spice. Patrick Mahomes rushing in a TD.
What was the Godwin TD one at?
1.75. If you do Godwin at that, and then I'm just putting in another one, you do get up to the 100 with a regular if you go a 1.75. So we can basically pick in a non-spice to go if we go with the Godwin, or you could do, like Copper said, a 1.5 or two 1.25s.
I like Godwin plus Purdy does feel good for me. We can keep looking. I know we have like 10 more minutes if you want to just like look at some other spices, but I like the Godwin 1.75 with Purdy.
Yeah. Yeah. How about this? This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get a Nez version.
Okay.
And we're gonna get a John version. This is the Nez. This is the Nez here. That has James Cook, Godwin, and Purdy. So I'm locking this one in. And now I want to know how John sticks this landing.
I'd put Ayuk in for Cook. Let me click on that one first here before. Yeah, I think I like Ayuk over Cook, and
then you still get a regular pick to get to the 100.
I'm trying to think who some of my favorite regular ones were now. The Josh Reynolds 3 receptions.
Yeah, we can go back to one of our favorites like that. Yeah, that gets you to 100 there too.
Yeah, I like that. Josh Reynolds 3. Okay, let me see again before.
Sorry, I got excited.
No, you're good. You're good. You're
good. Have to capitalize on those.
Yeah, I'll drop this one. So this is the core is the Schultz, the Musgrave, and the Godwin. And then John remixed the Cook Purdy with Ayuk Spice TD and Josh Reynolds higher.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, they're both nice.
Should we get should we do one more a Pete spin on it?
Yeah. Let's go.
Can you drop that one in the private for me, please?
Yeah. Here, what I'm gonna do, John, after this, here, I'm just gonna draw my everything I have so far. There you go. All right. So I'm gonna give us an out to the Godwin one not getting there.
Okay.
And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the Rashad White instead in this one. And then I believe what do we need for the one team we didn't get one in that I do think is pretty ripe is Baltimore stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So what do we need now to get? Because we're at 43. Come on.
Copper.
Too many tabs open here. TD. Okay, here we go. So like
DeRozan lower. That'll get it home for sure.
Like a Zay gets us a 1.5 gets us to 100. Oh, and a 1.25 does. So this one do we just need actually a regular pick? I think that's all we might need.
If you go down to Pacheco in TD, he has a regular pick, so you can test it.
Okay. Man, I'm clicking too many buttons and it's going slow here. Let me just do a. So that gets us to 87. So we do need a 1.25 on this one.
What about Gus?
I know that's what I was thinking. Do we just want to do the Gus? I think that is pretty nice there. Play it opposite of Schultz. So you go Schultz, Musgrave, higher than 2.5 receptions. Ayuk TD, Rashad White TD, Gus TD. I like that one too.
Feels good.
All right. All right, we're locking that in. So that's our hedge against Godwin not delivering us to the promised land. In case his wife doesn't start putting Baker on blast, then we got that one to cover us there. All right, I will drop all of these in the Discords, also in the comments section. So you got our full card of 5 pick'ems. I'm going to be heading over here to do lulls in 1 sec. We got Pat Mayo joining us to talk shop. Let the people know what else they can find from you guys. Are you doing any programming the rest of the week?
We haven't really said about Friday. That's like still like up in the air, I guess. Probably, right? I mean, probably something.
I think we might have to do a dinger.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's dinger season, which Pete, we'll get you on the books sooner than later for your annual dinger draft as well.
I almost shipped it in one entry last year. We hit the nuts.
You had the ultimate hype team, the pre-Steam. So probably.
Yeah, people forget he was pushing the charge. He was leading the charge there for Corbin Carroll in the 5th round.
Yeah,
I tell everyone about my Corbin Carroll CLV that I got in the dinger last year.
So yeah, that'll probably round out our week, and then we'll be drafting all weekend as well. So I think it's probably on top for us.
Beautiful. Well, I appreciate you guys. After lulls, this is my last show for the week. I'm taking the red eye back Sunday night. Not sure if I will have it in me to spin up a Monday portfolio review, but I'll be sure to do one regardless. Maybe Tuesday at the latest. We can kind of recap how our teams are advancing. Did we squeak any through to the conference finals? Check in on all of these pick'ems, our battle royale stuff, all of that good stuff. So enjoy the Underdog streets this week. All kinds of fun stuff. Appreciate John and Nez as always, and our long lost badge bro Numi himself hanging out in the chat. Good luck this weekend. We will see you guys next time here on Off and on the Clock. Peace.